And now we can move to the next keynote speaker, Dr. S.S. Bakar.
Yeah.
We'll go to the next speaker, Dr. S.S. Bakar. Experienced director with a demonstrated history of working in the education management industry, has guided one business school to get NAAC A accreditation, permanent affiliation, UGC recognition under Section 2F and 12B, recognition as research center of the affiliating university, and many more as director, and has contributed in achieving similar success for another B school as senior faculty. Well-known trainer in the area of operation management, supply chain, and research, have conducted more than 60 research methodology workshops, 25 case writing workshops, 35 plus executive training programs, have been conference chairman for 9 international conferences and 15 national conferences and seminars, have delivered keynote speeches in national and international conferences and seminars. Dr. S.S. Bakar, the time is
Indonesia, am I going to share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone in Indonesia. I'm Dr. Bakar. Today, I'm going to talk on the effect of Corona on academics. What has happened to academics and how the academics is going to look like once the Corona is over. This is in some summary, this is what I'm going to talk about. If we look at the issues today, we know that the academics had its own issues before Corona struck. The education system that we were using is actually 200 years old, and there have been some changes, but then the teaching has been same. You go to the classroom, you use either a blackboard, a green board, or a whiteboard, but then the process did not change much. That you go to a particular place and you learn there. And it is one to many. That means one teacher teaches to many people. After Corona, we can either move back to the passive learning, that is, the teacher speaks and the students listen to, or do we move to a new path wherein the focus is on the student and not on the teacher. It is not the teacher who decides what the student is going to learn, but it is the student who is going to decide what he would like to learn. And actually, the world is on a at a juncture that would fork into two two branches, and we can take either of that, two paths. Either we can go back and business as usual can take place. That means whatever we were doing before Corona, we can continue doing that. Or we can move to blended learning. That is the new path that we can take, which can give freedom to the student to way and the way he would like to learn. Now, looking at what has actually changed because of Corona, and whether the Corona has actually given a big push to the world to move to the new platforms of learning, new methods of learning, or is it only temporary? Are we going to move back to the the area, to the methods that we were using earlier? We've seen that there have been serious debate on using online earlier, before Corona struck, specifically for the subjects that actually did not utilize labs. Subjects that utilized labs, everyone understood that it has to be in the lab and it cannot be online. But for other subjects, there was debate, and people were telling that we should move online so that it can have a far more reach, and students in remote areas also can learn from the best teachers. Move never got the nod of all stakeholders now. There were people who were in favor, but because of silos between departments and faculty and staff, the move never could actually take off. In some isolated areas, specifically in distance learning that we call today, the online learning started, but otherwise the move did not take off. But what could not be achieved in small efforts since last about 20 years now, Corona swiftly achieved in one stroke. One could see faculty members helping others in making them comfortable with technology. Not everyone was comfortable with technology because there were a number of us, the teachers, who were not using technology earlier, so had problems. But there were others who came forward and helped those who were not comfortable with technology to make them comfortable. This momentum must be seized. The momentum wherein the teachers are willing to adopt technology to enhance the effectiveness of teaching and their reach must be seized, and we must move in the same direction, providing the quality education to everyone, from developed countries to developing countries to underdeveloped countries, people in remote areas, people in cities. Everyone should have access to quality learning, quality resources, and that is what we can do. Moving to online platform was made essential because of COVID. We could not meet physically. Physical distances was essential. Lockdowns were imposed by a number of countries, governments, and therefore, if learning was to continue, we had to do it online. Platforms like Blackboard, Canvas were originally used. They were there before COVID, and initially they were the ones which were used, wherein recorded sessions could be played, and the students can learn from there. But after COVID, online platforms that allowed interactive learning and online learning, those became popular, like Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, and so on. There are now hosts of such platforms, and all of them are free for the learners and the teachers. In fact, their revenue model is based on advertisements. Resources are earning from coming from advertisements and not from specifically learners don't have to pay for such platforms. But were we comfortable using these platforms? Not everyone was, because in a number of countries, online mode of teaching was not permitted, and therefore the teachers were not conversant with, and the technology was not available. And Corona once struck very quickly, and places were closed. People or teachers could not learn how to use online platforms. So there were initial hiccups in using online platforms, but it quickly changed, and teachers actually quickly learned and started using technology to deliver what they used to deliver on face-to-face classes. We may keep saying that the online teaching or online learning is not that effective, and face-to-face learning, generally the older teachers keep saying that learning in classroom is far better than learning through online modes, but it was proved. In fact, a research done in Peking, China, indicated that retention rate in case of online learning is about 25 to 60%, whereas in case of physical classes it is only 8 to 15%. That makes online classes far more effective than the face-to-face classes. That is one part. Also, it was pointed out in the same research that sessions that are longer are not effective. Sessions that are shorter, say about 15 to 30 minutes, are very effective. And therefore, the online learning gives you that flexibility that you can give breaks of 5 minutes, or you can give have changes in the session. That means you can put in some tests, or some changes. Some video can be shown, and it can be made far more interactive, which in case of physical classes was difficult. The online learning has also indicated that it can be far more engaging, energetic, and focused. Now, but the problem was that majority of universities and the institutions moved their physical timetable to online mode, which had the sizes of sessions were 1 hour to 2.5 hours. Some institutions used 2.5 hour sessions, some used 1 hour sessions. They actually created a lot of problems. Staying in front of screen and the whole timetable shifting to online mode required sitting in front of screens for 5 to 6 hours for students, and maybe similar hours because the teachers had to also prepare their sessions for the teachers, created exhaustion for them. Teachers were also not exposed to the tools, so they took more time in preparing their lessons and even delivery. It also created mobility was actually suddenly stopped between countries, and students were studying outside their country actually were stuck in those countries. In fact, since the universities were closed, they had no option but to stay at the residences where they were, but not in their own country. They were learning online, so they could have learned anywhere, but then they had to stay back in the countries where they were struck. Researchers had very low options to travel because the traveling was stopped between countries, and even domestic travel was restricted. Universities and institutions who were dependent on international students, like developed countries, had problems in recruiting students, even have problems now. Conferences, seminars, workshops were moved to online mode as we are having now. But then this conferences, seminars, workshops moving to online has given advantages. Not everyone actually could attend conferences when they were not online. But now, since the option is there that we can attend from anywhere, there is more attendance in conferences from different countries than what it was before Corona. Another area that actually had problems were internships. It required that people learn directly from the professionals, but pandemic did not permit that, and internships were also moved to online. The professionals were also working from home, so the internship was also moved to working from home. Students did not get the feel of the environment, real environment that they could have got, but then they had also the flexibility and the online mode of working. They could easily adapt to online mode of learning, which could be the mode that they will be probably facing in future, because work that can be done from home, why move it to the on-site? So that is the mantra. So the students actually could fit in that mode easily. Lab experiments, this was another area that had problems, because the lab experiments, the labs were not available to the students. Some universities and institutions moved to virtual labs wherever they had access to virtual labs, but not every university and institution had access to virtual labs. And also virtual labs did not give the kind of feel that the students would have had, because when they use equipment physically, when they see the products and chemicals, etc., they remember it, they learn that far more in a better way than learning on virtual labs. So these are some of the problems that people had. Moving to research, we found that pre-COVID research were generally done in small groups, or they were done by individuals. Data and results were guarded till the final results were obtained, and the publication of results were only done once the researchers reached to the final stage. That actually prevented collaboration in research in initial phases or during the period of research. Now, even breakthrough research you find were the outcome of small groups in past, and not collaborative across the world. And that actually created that required far longer time than if the research was collaborative in nature. Now, COVID changed all that. You find that this is, I talked about that they had problems because of COVID, and researchers could not collect data physically, they could not go to conferences physically, meet other people physically. But the advantages were that international collaboration could take place. Actually, in the initial phases, we found that maximum research outcome that was shared was from China. There is a notion that the Chinese government did not permit sharing of research outcome from their scientists, but the fact is that initial genome of the COVID-19 was developed in China and was shared by everyone, and that is the basis of the vaccine that is being developed by a huge number of organizations, pharmaceutical firms. Now that genome decoding is the basis of that. So that shows that even countries which actually did not have open doors for collaboration, actually scientists from those countries also contributed and collaborated with others. Every scientist, every group that is carrying out research on vaccine is sharing their outcomes with the other groups. Now, that kind of environment in research was never seen. So this is a positive sign. The COVID has made sure that the research is more collaborative than in silos. Once the COVID will be over, now what is going to happen, as I had said earlier also, that we have two different paths. We can take either of them. Either we can go into the traditional path that we were using for teaching learning, or we can go to the new path. Now this new path is nothing but blended learning. Blended learning actually is blend of both the online and the offline, that is physical learning. As the world goes digital, e-learning sector too has evolved, and it embraces online tools to make learning more engaging, more relevant, more contextual, and more immersive. Technological advancements can't replace human being, that we know, and therefore we cannot actually depend only on online learning. Therefore, offline learning is as important, and offline learning is also as important, and therefore blended learning is better than learning online or offline. And education and training practices should incorporate best of both worlds, online and offline. This has given this has given rise to the concept of blended learning. Now, blended learning can be done in number of ways, or blending can be done in number of ways. There are a number of models that are available. Online, wherein the delivery is done by the professionals online, and the students learn offline. Now this is online uh, interactive. That means students can interact with the online teacher, and it is at the time when delivery is being made, the students are also able to attend those classes. Rotation, wherein they can rotate between online and offline. That means there is a rotation. Some part is done online. Some part of the learning can be done, or teaching can be done online. The other part can be done offline, and there can be a mix. Flexible. Now the flexibility is given to the student, and the student can actually attend either offline or online classes. Both are made available to him. Online lab, wherein a teacher or a professional actually delivers session online, and the students actually assemble in a class. So there is a class feeling, but there is a session that is delivered by a professional from online, and there is a teacher present in the class who can actually add to what is delivered online. Now this is online labs. Personalized learning, blended learning model. In personalized, individual students can learn majorly from online, and wherever they need, they can go to the physical classes, and or maybe for lab, they can go to the laboratories and learn. Self-blended learners, that the learners can do on their own majority of it, and if they need, there is a help available to them, they can get that help. And face-to-face learning, majorly it is done in classrooms, and additional resources are made available on online, and the students can use those resources, online resources, and can supplement the learning that they do from face to face. So blended learning can have 100% online to say very less online, say 10%, 15% online, majorly offline. So you can have either you can have mix of online and offline. Uh, why blended learning? Because it will increase students' interest. Online learning, you find that when you use technology, you can use virtual and augmented reality to show application of the concepts that you teach. So the student's interest automatically goes higher. It increases focus. The student can learn what he or she wants to. He can choose and focus on what he is supposed to be learning. Learning through exploration and research, you can search different resources online and learn. Learning by doing, that the person can keep working and also enhance his learning through online classes. Promoting learning anytime, anywhere, that of course online learning would give that benefit to the learners. Gaining access to global resources. In offline learning, you can only learn from the local resources. In online learning, you can get access to global resources. So you can have mix of both, mix of the best of both, the local resources and the global resources. You can learn based on your own pace. It allows diagnostic information, students' feedback. Online, immediate feedback is possible, wherein offline, you take feedback only once in a while. Greater interaction with instructors is possible in online, and offline you can have mix of both, so you can have greater interaction and prepare students for the future, because that is the world going to be. That is how the world is moving to. So it prepares students for the future. So blended learning is the target that should be used by the institutions, prepare themselves and go for blended learning. I'll be skipping one or two slides. They are basically that COVID has actually triggered a lot of debate on how important is nature. Because we've seen changes in nature because of COVID, because the pollution was reduced, and you could see a lot of changes, and that are very pleasing to the ears and eyes of people. So it has put more focus on nature. Valuing community is again in focus, because you are now staying indoors, not meeting people physically, and there's a urge to meet people. So community which you thought you could live without, we found that it is not possible to live without community. So these are the two areas that in fact institutions should also focus on. But to go for go for blended learning, the institutions have to have updated or up-to-date technology. So institutions have to work towards improving the technology that they are using, and adapt themselves. That means train both students and teachers in using that technology to the best of their advantage, to the best of their advantage. With that, I have come to the end of my presentation. Blended learning, as I put forward, is the future of learning, and institutions and universities that move quickly to blended learning will become the leaders in education, and not the ones which are dependent more on physical training, teaching, and learning. Thank you very much.